So you're mixing on like these earbuds, like just like Apple earbuds?
Yeah, like I said, I use the like I have some Shure in-ears that I used when I like played in bands and when I played drums on stage a lot. So I'm really used to the way those sound, and like
Got it. Yeah.
I use those quite a bit, and then I'll switch to the over ears when those get uncomfortable, and then I might listen on the laptop speakers a little bit. I'll switch to the earbuds. Like sometimes I'm lucky and I'll be in a place where there's a pair of speakers I can use, but that's pretty rare.
So you're just like, you just know these headphones well enough that you're comfortable with them to like get a mix, basically.
Well enough, yeah. And I mean, I don't claim to be a mixing engineer, you know, like I mix my own compositions and get them to a place where they're acceptable. But like for example, that Disney commercial that I did when I was on the road in Japan, they hired a professional mixing engineer to mix all my stems, and they always do. Like that's just the way they are.
Got it.
But a lot of the projects I work on will be mixed by someone else. So there's not as much pressure. But I'd say most of the stuff I do, I'm doing my own mix and master. So I do have to know the headphones pretty well. And there have been times where I've been making music on the road and I'm just like, I know this low end isn't the way that it sounds in my headphones. And like, I wish I could listen to it on a proper pair of speakers to figure it out, but I just have to like wait till I can get somewhere to listen to it or something like that.
So it's like, I guess for all the upsides, there's a few downsides.
Yeah, but in terms of quality, I can usually get by, you know? I mean, the standard, I don't know, you know, sometimes I'm competing with other composers and we're all submitting demos and stuff like that, and I feel like with the mobile rig that I have and the setup that I have, I can pretty much always be up to that standard. Oh, and the last thing I should mention in terms of the music mobile rig is like the software instruments. So that's the main thing, is like I can do it because I have a solid state drive with over 1 terabyte of, you know, incredible sounding software instruments. And with that, you know, every time I open a session, I have a template that opens with like my favorite, you know, 60 instruments basically that I use all the time for composing, where I just know what it's going to sound like. And, you know, like I have, as long as you got the good sounding piano, the good sounding strings, you know, some orchestral percussion, a couple of nice synthesizers, and you know, the essential things all in there, it's like I can pretty much get by. And
and you're keeping that all on your internal SSD inside the MacBook, not like an external hard drive.
It's all on an external.
It's on external, yeah.
My
like one of those Samsung
exactly
tiny ones. I got one of those also, yeah.
Yeah, it's actually it's a friend of mine built my desktop computer in LA. It's like a PC that thinks it's a Macintosh. We call it a Hackintosh. It's just a really powerful computer that's not as expensive as a Mac Pro, you know? But my samples drive that I used in there was one of those Samsung internal drives. And then I just bought a little adapter that plugs onto that so I can plug it in USB-C straight into my laptop. And I just pulled the drive right out of my other computer and have been traveling with it, because I mean, it's a solid state. Like, even though it's not encased in some little rubber casing, like it's still a very solid thing, and as long as you're careful with it. So that's a neat little fact for anyone trying to save like $50 on a solid state drive, is that you can travel with internal drives.
Good to know.
Yeah.
So what are some of those, like, you know, essential instruments that you're using? Like, do you have any particular, like, I don't know, people swear by like East West or Contact or whatever? Yeah,
I love Spitfire. I don't know if you've ever used any of their stuff, but for anyone out there who's curious, they do have a bunch of free instruments. It's called Spitfire Labs. I'm plugging a company right now, but I do tell everyone that because I feel like this stuff is free and you should go out and get it, because it sounds incredible. Like, even just with their free sample instruments, you could score a whole movie.
Wow.
Yeah. And then what else do I love? I mean, I use a ton of Arturia stuff. I don't know if you mess with that. I've been using that Serum synthesizer. I've been using Splice. Do you know about Splice? I just started using that. It's pretty cool for just like finding cool samples and little loops and like building beats pretty quickly for any of the people out there who are trying to get creative with loops, that's a really cool way to do that. I used to be super against using loops, but have kind of gotten a little more comfortable with it.
Yeah, I feel like that's like the story of a lot of people I've spoken with, like eventually just embracing it as like the new norm, you know?
Yeah. I use lots of different little things, and I also have a bunch of custom instruments. When I was living in LA, I lived in a house full of amazing musicians, and we would always have these beautiful instruments at the house or just coming through, and like we would find ourselves with a amazing drum set mic'd up in an amazing studio with a couple of hours to kill, and it's like, oh well, let's just sample it. So I'd say probably most of the drum programming that I do with MIDI is with custom made drum kits that me and a friend of mine put together, and that's the kind of stuff that other people don't have access to. So it's really an advantage in terms of like composing and competing with other composers, because like I mentioned earlier, a lot of my gigs are like sort of a demo contest, which is highly annoying and I hate it, but they do pay a demo fee sometimes, which is great. But having those custom instruments kind of gives you an edge, because a lot of people are using the same stuff. And a lot of their demos are going to be sort of limited by that. And so people who make their own samples, I feel like definitely have an edge in that. And I've got probably like over 10 custom little contact instruments that my homie Eric, shout out Eric Groisman, he and I worked on those a while back, and I use that stuff constantly. Yeah. And I've met a couple of producers along the way who are like, oh, you know, I got this and I got that, and we do little trades. And, you know, like when I was in Japan, I was with this incredible producer, and he traded me these like recordings of traditional Japanese instruments that he did for like a couple of little things that I had done. And I don't know. I love that kind of stuff. I feel like life is a video game, and like you find this, you know, hidden treasure through this person that you meet somewhere off in the world. Like I look at life like that sometimes, like it's a video game or a movie, and like I'm on these different quests, you know?
Yeah. Well, you're just networking and, you know, being a human, I guess, right? Like,
yeah.
So you have your hands in like a lot of different pots. What's your most favorite thing that you're doing?
I mean, composing for me is always the most, I don't know if I would say satisfying or gratifying or whatever it is, but it's just kind of the one that I get the most, like when it works, when it's working right, and like I'm watching the video and I'm listening to the music and I'm like, oh, this is working. Like for me, that is the greatest feeling. So that's kind of the work that I'm thinking that I'm going to do the most of in my life, you know, and would like to be doing the most. But I will say that like getting out into the world and filming and creating videos and directing, and like the level of interaction with people that comes from that kind of work is also very satisfying in a way, you know, and just feels so necessary for me currently. And I think part of the reason why I switch hats so often is because like you just get worn out on one thing, you know, like I don't know, maybe not everyone feels that way, but like if I'm sitting in front of a computer editing day after day after day after day, like to go and chase down a sunset with my friends and a drone and like just like shoot some cool looking stuff to like make a quick little music video, for me is just like an amazing way to not be staring at a computer screen but still feel like on mission and like you're accomplishing. I mean, I don't know. I mean, for me, I kind of see it all as one thing. Like I'm just trying to create beautiful stuff. Like my purpose in life is to find and capture and create and share beauty. That's the way I see it, is like that's my little thing that I get to do here that I feel like is my contribution. And if somebody can appreciate that beauty for a little while and it, you know, kind of alleviates their stress, or they can have a laugh, or they can just, You know, sometimes you watch a 60-second commercial and you like tear up and you're like, whoa, there's some kind of beauty in that thing that those people made. And that's what I strive for, is just like, I'm always trying to make things as beautiful as they can be.
Wow. That's amazing, dude.
So I end up, just to wrap it up, I end up viewing like the video and the music stuff as all kind of one process, you know? Like, I just see it as you're going out into the world and you're capturing these waveforms, whether it's like sound waves or light waves, and then you're bringing it into your lab where you can, you know, twist it and, you know, turn it all these different ways inside your computer until it's this beautiful little shiny little gem, and then you bring it out and share it with the world.
Yeah. It sounds like making babies or something.
Yeah, totally. With all the love.
Absolutely. So do you think you have like a trademark sound in the composing and the scoring that you do?
Well, that's like a tricky question, because I'd like to, but I don't think I've really figured it out yet, you know? It's interesting because a lot of people who know me really well and they've heard a ton of my music over the years can identify my harmonic signature, which like that's what I call the thing that you're talking about, is like having a harmonic signature. You know, there are certain artists where like if you listen to a Radiohead song, you immediately know it's Radiohead, or like there are just certain people that have a harmonic signature, and like the most successful film composers are the ones who have established, you know, groundbreaking harmonic signatures. And you look at people like, you know, Hans Zimmer, who changed the game, and then like Trent Reznor kind of came in and changed the game with his harmonic signature. And like the game is always changing, and it's all about what's kind of the next step and like what's the next sound. And then everyone is supposed to emulate that sound because that's what all the directors want, you know? So it's kind of like a vicious cycle, but the real way to break the cycle is to come with something new. And I mean, isn't that the hardest thing for anyone who's trying to be a creative, is just to be groundbreaking in some way? I mean, that's like, everyone wants that, but so few people, I think, can achieve that. It's such a difficult thing to achieve because, I mean, you know, like I said, most of the work I do, there's reference material, so I don't even get an opportunity to try and do that. Like,
right.
You can still innovate inside the box. Like, you can still take an idea that someone else did and do it better than them, but that's really hard when you're competing with people who have huge, you know, record label budgets, and you're just like some dude with a laptop and a tiny little condenser mic. But what was I saying?
So what do you think it's about to get to that level of greatness and that harmonic signature?
Yeah,
it's just about time, luck, effort, intentionality.
A lot of it is having the resources to do that, because either you need to be getting opportunities that allow you to do that. So like sometimes I get projects where they're like, "Oh, we have no idea what to do. Like, what would you do?" You know? And I love getting projects like that, but it also scares me a lot, because it's sometimes a lot more intimidating to not have a reference. But then other times you end up with something that they're just like, they listen to it once and they're like, "We love it. We never would have thought of that. You're amazing. Like, here's the money." But I also think like if you have the resources to do what you want to do is another way to get to that harmonic signature. And I'm always looking for opportunities like that, you know, like looking for opportunities where I can hole up in a studio for a couple of weeks and just like do the music that I want to do and discover what that sounds like and discover what that palette is. And like, I put out an album in 2018 that I worked on for years. And so much of that project was trying to figure out what my harmonic signature is. And I mean, I listen to it now and I'm like, dang, I was so confused. Like I'm trying all these different genres and like, I mean, there is a thread through the whole thing, and like it does have a harmonic signature, but I don't know. I'm still crafting that harmonic signature. I definitely wouldn't say that I'm there yet. It's the goal. It's definitely the goal.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like every artist is like disappointed with their work from a couple of years ago because you just build on what you've done every year. You know, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know about like a month goes by and it's different, but a year goes by for sure. You know.
Yeah, man, always trying to grow, definitely. I mean, yeah, trying to maintain that open mind and always trying new things, but also I don't know, like I said earlier, figuring out the limitations and finding the palette is so important. Like moving forward with the passion projects that I'm working on right now, I'm really trying to say,